Have you completed the inheritance procedures of your mother? How much did you receive?
Huh? Well, the paperwork is done, but it hasn't been that long since my mother passed away.
But it's about our future, right? Just give me a rough estimate.
Well, maybe around $20,000. I grew up with a single mother, and she was the only relative I trusted. When my mother suddenly passed away, I was emotionally devastated and had to take time off work. Despite this, my husband was more concerned about the inheritance than my well-being. Without considering my feelings, he pressed me for the amount. Little did I know that at that moment, my husband and mother-in-law were plotting an outrageous scheme.
You're probably getting more, right? So, please pay all the bills.
If you use your inheritance, there'll still be plenty left.
Upon seeing the payment documents they presented, I made up my mind to get a divorce. I work as a designer in a small company. After graduating from high school, I immediately started working and have been striving to establish myself as an independent designer. My reliable family member was only my mother. My grandparents had already passed away, and while my mother had several siblings, I didn't particularly like them. They all worked in large corporations and looked down on me for becoming a designer with just a high school diploma.
No college degree. Considering lifetime earnings, that was a really foolish choice. Your mother graduated from a prestigious university and managed to raise you as a single mother. Isn't she disappointed in you?
Your mother not only worked for a big company but also increased her wealth through investments recently. Why didn't you follow her footsteps?
Yes. I understand. Whenever relatives gathered, I was always ridiculed. I despised that life, and my mother was equally fed up. But dealing with such people seemed inevitable, so we didn't engage with them too much. 5 years after starting my job, I got married through a friend's introduction. Of course, only my mother and friends were invited to the wedding, and I didn't bother announcing it to the rest of the family. Mom. He doesn't belittle me based on education, and he's genuinely a good person. If our schedules align, let's go out for dinner as 3 people sometime. Maybe by then, a new life will be on the way, and we'll be a family of 4.
You're getting ahead of yourself. You're not even pregnant yet. But, yes, let's enjoy my later years watching you build a happy new family.
My mother was genuinely happy about my marriage, and I was leading a contented life. Although my mother had a reasonable financial cushion, I never asked her for an allowance. My goal was to someday take her on a trip using my own saved money. Having that goal motivated me to work hard, and I was fortunate to have my beloved partner by my side, enjoying a comfortable life without any major inconveniences. One day, while working as usual, my phone rang. Hello?
Hello! Your mother has been taken to the emergency room. Please come to the hospital immediately.
Huh? Emergency transport.
Time is of the essence. Please hurry. I beg you.
I received the call from the hospital and immediately took a taxi there. The doctor at the hospital informed me that my mother had been in a severe car accident and was in critical condition due to excessive bleeding. She was undergoing emergency surgery, but they couldn't guarantee her survival. I felt utterly powerless, waiting and praying. Why was I only capable of praying when my mother was in such a state? As frustration welled up within me, thoughts of worst-case scenarios plagued my mind, intensifying my anxiety. After an unknown amount of time, the surgeon who performed the operation came.
We did everything we could, but I apologize for our inadequacy.
Huh?
Truly. I'm sorry.
The surgeon's words left me completely stunned and emotionally drained. In moments of panic, when my mind goes blank, tears often fail to flow. I couldn't process the reality before me, and for a while, I couldn't think of anything else. Eventually, tears welled up, and I immediately called my husband. My mother! She didn't make it. It was a car accident.
Ha! A car accident. If it's a fatal accident, the compensation from the other party will be substantial, right? Well, maybe you should go on a trip to distract yourself.
My husband's words momentarily shook me. Despite my mother's passing, was he only concerned about money? Suspicion toward my husband surged. But at that moment, I chose to believe that he was trying to console me in his own way. In the chaotic days that followed, funeral arrangements, compensation claims, and inheritance procedures, life gradually settled down.
Hey! Has the inheritance been deposited yet? It's been a while since she passed away. Isn't it about time?
Why? My mental state hasn't fully recovered yet. Can't you consider that?
But our future life depends on it, right? Besides, money matters. I just want to make sure we share it properly.
But it's already been deposited, hasn't it?
Ha! How much? Your mother was quite successful with investments, wasn't she? It must be a substantial amount. Plus, you didn't go to college, so she had saved quite a bit, right?
As soon as I mentioned the inheritance being deposited, my husband's eyes sparkled as he blurted out those words. Was he only thinking about money when my mother had just passed away? Irritation surged within me, but simultaneously, anxiety gripped me. I had a bad feeling, so I instinctively lied. Well, it's about $20,000, I think. It seems like it was for donations, and also, they were against leaving a large inheritance for the child.
Ha! Seriously? They seem to be making a ton of money. Was all of that a lie?
Well, I don't think so, but for now, I haven't inherited that much. After I said that, my husband left for work with a dissatisfied expression. Maybe it was a good thing I didn't reveal the actual amount. As I finished my household chores that day, I reflected on my own feelings. From that day on, my husband persistently asked if the inheritance amount was really accurate. But I continued to insist that it was correct. However, one day, my husband left early in the morning on his day off and returned around noon with my mother-in-law.
I need to talk to you.
It's an important matter.
Yes. Without saying a word to me, he brought my mother-in-law. I sat down in the living room, wondering what they were thinking.
Here, pay this. We've decided to renovate our old family home.
And this. I bought a luxury car from an acquaintance who sells used cars. The payment is also a lump sum. Can you handle it?
Wait a moment. What is this? The paper my mother-in-law handed me showed a bill for about $300,000 in renovation costs. And my husband's words didn't make sense either.
You know, you actually inherited around $2 million, right? And you said only $20,000. Were you planning to squander it yourself?
Well, since you no longer have parents, I thought of it as a substitute for filial piety. Take care of it, okay?
I don't know how they found out, but my husband and mother-in-law had gone shopping, assuming my inheritance was their target. When I saw their delighted faces, I silently vowed never to forgive them. Even if you suddenly say that, it's impossible. Besides, why do you both know so much about my inheritance?
I checked it myself. As soon as I looked at your account, I knew.
When I first heard the initial inheritance amount from him, I was truly surprised. I knew it was a lie. Despite being involved in investments, and I heard she was successful, so I advised him to check your account.
The reason my husband knew the discrepancy between the amount I told him and what I actually received was because my mother-in-law had let him sneak a peek at my account. Even among families, doing something like that felt wrong, and they bragged about it. But now that it was exposed, there was no need to hide anymore. I see. It's not appropriate to look at someone else's account without permission. However, just because I inherited money doesn't mean I'll pay for such inexplicable expenses.
What are you saying? You have over $2 million, right? So it's okay to contribute a little, isn't it?
Although I found it a bit creepy that they had investigated to that extent, they wouldn't stop talking.
Our old family home, it's been over 20 years, and it's falling apart. Since my husband passed away, we've been struggling financially, couldn't afford any renovations. But for just $300,000, it can be as good as new. Isn't it worth paying for?
And I've never complained about your low salary, have I? So, it's okay to indulge a little.
Well, that's because we split living expenses, right? Besides, I really don't understand the renovation matter. Why not use your own money?
Don't you want to do something nice for your husband's mother? Since you haven't really been filial to your own mother, I'm saying I'll take her place.
Certainly, I parted ways with my mother before I could do anything particularly filial. But this was the thing that weighed on me the most after my mother's passing. It felt like reopening a wound, and tears threatened to spill. However, my anger was simmering beneath the surface, ready to explode at any moment. Anyway, even if you bring up such a topic suddenly, I can't give an immediate answer. So, please leave for now. Take some time to think about it yourself, consider borrowing from a consumer loan or finding a way to pay that money on your own. I said just that and sent my mother-in-law away for the time being. While she was here, I had managed to endure, but now that it was just my husband and me, my anger began to erupt little by little. Hey, do you think I am some kind of ATM or something?
What are you talking about? We're family, so helping each other is only natural, right? Besides, compared to the inheritance you received, it's not that large of an amount. You don't need to be so stingy, it'll be fine.
That's not the point. Even though it's not your inheritance, why are you treating it like your own money?
Well, we're family, so it's fine. You should relax more. I quit my job too, so why don't you quit yours?
Huh? His words hit me like a shockwave, making me forget all my previous anger. Quit his job. What did he mean? I was still working, and even with a large sum of money, I wouldn't quit. How do you plan to support yourself after quitting your job?
Your mother had a talent for investments, and you probably do too. So once you master that, you won't need to work, right?
Understood. In that case, I'll decide to work that way too. I'm cutting ties with you as family. Thanks for advising me on how to use the money, that's what I'll do.
Huh? What do you mean? Cutting ties, what are you talking about?
I mean, I'm getting a divorce from you. As soon as I said the word divorce, the smile vanished from my husband's face, despite him having smirked just moments ago. He had been listening to me while fiddling with his phone, but now he looked directly into my eyes, clearly shaken. Then I'll prepare the divorce papers right away.
Wait a minute, divorce? I don't understand. I'll call my mother back immediately.
My husband rushed out of the house to bring my mother-in-law back. Meanwhile, I began packing to leave. About 15 minutes later, my husband returned with my mother-in-law.
What's this about divorce? You were supposed to think it over calmly. I thought you'd be reasonable, so I came back earlier. What are you thinking?
It's not unreasonable, is it? Cutting ties with someone who shamelessly begs for money seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
So you're willing to take money over the family? You're a money grubber.
Well, it's not that I dislike sharing money. I just dislike people who only think of death in terms of money. They couldn't seem to comprehend what I was saying, and both of them continued to shout in frustration. I felt embarrassed because I was sure the neighbors could hear this conversation, but it didn't matter. I was leaving. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye.
Wait! Not getting a divorce would be better for you too.
Huh?
property division. If we divorce, our assets will be split in half.
Yes, that's right. If you don't want to lose your inheritance, just pay quietly. The amount you'll pay won't change even after the divorce.
Ah.
At this point, I couldn't help but laugh out of sheer exasperation. Did they genuinely believe such things? As for my mother-in-law, she had lost her husband and should be familiar with inheritance procedures. I assumed she had some basic knowledge of inheritance laws, but perhaps my expectations were too high. Really, do you both know nothing about the law?
What? Why are you laughing like that? Are you mocking me?
Your property is also my property. That's the institution of marriage. You're the one who doesn't understand.
Listen. Do you know about community property? Let's put it simply, money earned together during marriage, even if one spouse is a homemaker, becomes joint property subject to property division upon divorce. But inheritance is different. As I explained slowly, like I would to a child, both of them looked dumbfounded. I couldn't believe there were working adults who lacked such basic knowledge. Beyond exasperation, I let out a sigh.
What does that mean?
That's why money earned before marriage, without any contribution from the partner, isn't subject to property division. And inheritance is completely unrelated to you. My husband immediately pulled out his phone and started researching. He was probably checking if what I said was true.
Is this a lie, or is it true?
Wait, what about the inheritance? What about the renovation costs?
I have no idea. What should we do?
Well, for now, sign the divorce papers. If you refuse, I'll use the recorded conversations to file for divorce. There are plenty of cases where inheritance issues have been resolved in favor of divorce. If you don't want a big problem, make a wise choice. With that, I left the house. I stayed at a business hotel for the time being and packed all my belongings while my husband was at work. Later that night, I received a phone call.
Hello? Can you reconsider the divorce?
Why now? It's clear that you both turned pale when you realized there's no inheritance for you. If you don't want a divorce, can you explain why?
Well, for me, I've realized that you're truly important. So, can you give me another chance? I genuinely, finally realized that I love you from the bottom of my heart.
I see, you've finally become aware of your feelings.
Yeah. That's why.
As I responded, my husband's tone grew more hopeful. But I wasn't swayed by his words. This was likely his last hope, but I wouldn't be fooled. It's good that you've realized your feelings, but I don't have any feelings for you.
Ha!
Exactly, my love for you doesn't exist. No matter how passionately you express your love, my feelings remain unchanged. I might be able to introduce you to a consumer loan, but that's all. So, goodbye.
Wait, just.
I interrupted my husband, who seemed eager to say something, and hung up the phone. Afterward, I blocked both my husband and mother-in-law's contacts, cutting off all communication. While disappearing completely might have been fine, I didn't want to remain married. I enlisted a lawyer's help, providing them with recorded conversations that revealed my husband and mother-in-law's true nature. All further communication went through the lawyer. Initially, both of them resisted, but eventually, my husband agreed to the divorce, allowing me to sever all ties with him and my ex-mother-in-law. My ex-husband apparently couldn't afford the car payment, so he returned the car to the acquaintance he bought it from. However, they wouldn't accept the return, and the full payment was already decided. As for my ex-mother-in-law, she could still cancel, but it would incur a substantial cancellation fee since they were close to finalizing the process. She had no savings, so she started working part-time. Unfortunately, my ex-husband's payment left him with nothing, and their relationship continued to deteriorate. With the money my mother left me, I started my own company. Among our relatives, only my mother had supported me as a designer. Fulfilling my dream was the best way to repay her. People are connected by love, not money. Whether it's family love or romantic relationships, the forms vary. But if you judge solely based on short-term gains and losses, you'll inevitably face consequences. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law are prime examples of this. I never want to become like them. Well, as long as I don't see people purely in terms of money, I won't end up like that.
How did you like this story? If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time in the next video.